5 to 10 minutes.
This one feels it should get powerful this. Yes. Because it's powered sound.
Наверное, здесь не очень круто похариться. Кому? Не знаю, кому-нибудь впервые. Where are you from? From St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg? Do you plan to translate it? From the I thought I heard Russian. Короче, нет, я пойду до второй раз. Первый раз я не смотрел крутых мест. Even de wc bezet.
Maar deze doet niet. Maar er zit echt een batterij halverwege in. Ja, en als dat ding leeg is, ja, gewoon.
Ja, los.
Ik heb alle soldering al aangekeken, of dat nog een keer een probleem zijn. Een fysieke probleem.
No, que te vamos a dar una... Ah, bien, no ofreciendo ahora. No, o sea, yo ya me he pedido otra conferencia y le digo, mira, me paso la factura. Porque además,
kunnen niet alle twee tegelijk aan. Maar waarschijnlijk kunnen we daar bovenin ergens instellen en dan straks meer.
De rest van u dat beer halen en vragen dat hij naar komt kijken.
Ja, dat is goed. Dankjewel. Succes. Gaat goed verder.
Cada pregunta que le hacía era
Somewhere.
It's much farther
vamos a organizar un juego. Bueno, sí, en Madrid, claro, ven si quieres. Pero ponemos allí a programar con los tíos, que eran liberados.
A mí me lo orientaron a gestión de contenido. Cuando dijeron CFI, no, pero que ya no CFI era el nombre, ¿verdad? Yo le dije, no, pero bueno, entiendo que al final el lugar es más querido, además es muy
a mí me está dándome el coñazo ahora, eso es el grande. No, que tienes que decir, yo estoy más tan por supuesto.
Vamos, Nico.
Ya está jugando la luz. Como cita ciega, científico, gente dice, me gusta pasear por la playa, me gusta vacíos.
Are you ready? Difference? 1 T, 2 T, 3 T's?
That's the H or Sh. That's alone is at least that was in my school. I don't know what happened. You're in a different school here.
How do you prefer it? 1 S, 2 S, 3 S with 2 H's, 1 H? Does I in between or not?
It was starting with P. Start with P.
Start with a P?
Yes.
Whatever. But we have a little bit of problem with the audio. There is a nice mic here, it's not working. So we have our mic on the camera. That means that we catch everything. Even if you open your can of Coke or you're pressing your reboot button from your Mac, it will be recorded. And we will find you.
Right, our next speaker is Salve Nielsen. Salve Nielsen, sorry. Did we did before? He will talk about public radio station.
Hello, glad to see lots of people. My talk is mostly directed to people who are new or would like to be joining the Pro community. And I see quite a few people already that I've seen in the Pro community before here. So you guys are now newbies, just so that you know. My name is Salve Nielsen. A little short about me. I've been involved with Oslo Promoters for some 10 years, doing all kinds of stuff, including hackathons and conferences, and even helping people recruit pro developers and classes. And I got a new job on Monday with the Norwegian Open Source Competence Center, which is a publicly run governmental institution in Norway that tries to help. Are you guys doing something? No? Tries to help move the Norwegian public sector into using more open and free software. And that's cool. But that's not what we're going to talk about here. It's about these topics. And some other stuff. For those of you who are here to pick up stuff, here's a pro tip. Now and then at least. Take pictures off the screen, because there are lots of URLs and stuff. So as far as you can, or look at the video, that works too. Okay, we start with the important myths. Where you find Perl people with or beer. There's something called Perl mongers. It's the social topical community in the Perl world. You can find it it on pm.org. It's completely volunteer-based, meaning that some programming groups are very active and do all kinds of cool stuff. Some are less so. Some of them did something 4 years ago and suddenly work and life happened to them. But there's always room for action there, and if you look for it, you might find something not far from you. The best part I get out of promongers are battle stories over a beer about cool stuff or crazy things that have happened at work, and learn from other people's mistakes, basically. You can get that online, of course, but it's nothing like having somebody who's been there talk with you about that, and you can ask questions, and that's a good shit for me. And you can only get that when you meet people face to face in a real way. So that's, for me at least, one of the main reasons promongers are awesome. And if you guys want to learn more Perl, this is a good place to start. And if you wonder where can you find the nearest promonger group, they're all over the place. And this is the updated map from today. Not all of them are active, but you might find something within driving distance in Europe at least. Maybe less so all the places in the world, but it's a good start. There's also something called meetup.com where there is some Perl activity. It's all kinds of technical meetup places and stuff there. Worth checking out in your area. Some Perlmonger groups have meetup.com pages too. And some are that are just on meetup. And it's sorted by where you are in the world, so you get only the local ones, and it's specified. Now, at Perlmonger groups meetings, you might talk about useful community services. What does the Perl community offer? Just to give you a heads-up warning, I had finished making this talk just like 5 minutes ago, as one is supposed to. It might take 10 minutes to finish, it might take 40 minutes, but at least we'll get some questions afterwards, so you're prepared. Write them down if you will need to. Community service, we have a lot, but arguably the most important one for the Perl community is the IRC network. And a few years back there was a presentation at YAPC. I think it was Matt Trout had one huge slide. I think it was in Riga, I don't remember. Which said basically, if you are not on IRC, you do not exist.
I think it was Riba, our previous speaker, actually.
It was Riba?
I think so.
Oh, well, Riba gets don't remember the English word. There you can get real action and solve problems and find the people who actually write the software that you're using for a lot of projects. But it's not only on rc.perl.org, it's also on Freenode, and you might even find some other servers out there. You have to kind of search. Here's a short list of useful channels you might want to try out. If you're newbie, Perl Help is definitely a place to start. If you'd like to learn something about the awesomeness of the new object system in Perl, go to Moose. Riva Sushi just had his talk, a talk just now. You can find him in Deeback's class and other places. Marcus, who had a talk, started with the Convos and the IRC client there, web client. It's built on Modulicious. Mojo is the talk for the channel for that. It's a channel called Dancer, where you can find something interesting, which Sawyer will talk about later today. And Catalyst is a web framework with lots and lots of cool history, where you can also do cool things and learn stuff. On rcfreenode.org, I would recommend going into the Perl 6 channel and see what they're doing. That's mind-blowing in some ways, just lurking and seeing what they're doing there. And if you want to dive into the guts of Perl, the P5P IRC channel has some hardcore stuff. There's more useful resources. Arguably just as important is CPAN, probably even more. CPAN is a comprehensive Perl archive network. You have find everything of software there. 20,000 plus different modules. Pain and the beautiful stuff. Michael Schwern, which is a prominent Perl guy, said CPAN is 90% crap, but those 10%, those are awesome for you. Or something like that. Meta CPAN is currently the up-to-date, not up-to-date, but the front-end and search engine for CPAN, which is currently actively being developed, and it's being run as an open source project, so you can help and ask questions on not only just the content there, but how it's presented. CPAN Testers is an awesome service where when you usually write something and publish it on CPAN, they test everything for you, just for free. And what they're doing is awesome. It's all kinds of platforms and versions of Linux and all the hardware architectures and different versions of Perl and all kinds. CPAN testing service looks for something called quality. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's basically a set of modules that looks for common mistakes in Perl module packages and modules, and just says, oh, there's something wrong here, you might want to fix that. Then it just goes through everything and tries to report on that. It's pretty useful. CPAN grep is for searching for source code, and you can build a URL and then paste it in your IC channel or in your discussion or show it to your colleague. Pause is where you upload your software. There's lots of ways of doing it other than just through this web interface, but this is the main place. If you need old Perl modules, there's something called Backpan, and you will find the link to Backpan from history.perl.org. Why is this really rebooting all the time?
I'll check for you.
Alright. If you just want some resources to teach somebody else to learn Perl or want to learn it for yourself, there's a nice index at learn.perl.org. And all the Perl documentation is also online on perl.org. All useful websites. There's more. There's something called Perlmonks. It's a web forum. It's really old school. It looks like it was made in the 90s. It probably was. It still looks like it. But the content there is very good. And it's indexed and all kinds of questions are answered there. There's also some Perl activity on Stack Exchange. You might find some interesting answers there, or just ask a question. On Twitter, there's some Perl activity. You can find, if you follow the Perl hashtag or Perl 6 hashtag, there are lots of stuff going on. But Perl Buzz and Perl Weekly give a nice overview of things that are happening on a daily and weekly basis. If you want to keep up to date with all the cool stuff that's going on, those two are very good. In addition to that, Matt Trout and Sebastian Riedel regularly post useful and really cool stuff. And there's all kinds of other people who post, probably with the Perl hashtag usually. So, very nice place to start. Look who they are retweeting, subscribe to them, and you get into the loop. There's a crazy amount of stuff going on with conferences. I should have brought a picture of activity, but there's something called YAPC. The European version is called YAPC EU. Every year in the autumn. Next one is in Sofia in August. I think it was 24th and 25th or something like that. 22nd to 24th. Usually a very good conference. You can learn all kinds of stuff there, and meet people, and drink beer, and eat tasty food, and have fun. You find running YAPSs in North America and in Asia, in Brazil, and all the places. Those are kind of, the YAPSs are kind of the big conferences, and they're all grassroots run, they're all volunteer-based and cheap. You're never going broke going to a Pro conference. And it's organized by Pro developers for Pro developers. So there's no fancy, expensive hotels and stuff. Just go there, learn stuff, and spend your money on booze. Okay, that's wrong. On something else. On something you care about. The smaller conferences in the Pro community are called workshops. So we're not actually doing work there. It's like a one-day conference sometimes, or sometimes 2 days. One track, sometimes 2 tracks. We have, say for example, back there, the Netherlands Pro Workshop is not too far. It says April.
25th of April, yeah.
Yes. In Amsterdam?
Utrecht.
Okay. And there's a German Pro Workshop soon. You can check everything out at yapsi.eu. It's a full overview of what's going on there.
There's even a hackathon next week.
There's a hackathon next week.
In Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam. There are lots of hackathons going on. Anybody here who doesn't know what a hackathon is? You're informed. Awesome. Lots of cool stuff happen there, and very fun. If you've never been to a hackathon, go to one. Anyone. Pro hackathon, even better. A little bit, when you're at conferences, just ask people. Never be afraid to do that. And a little bit of advice, you can get that from people at conferences and workshops and hackathons. It can save weeks of work. Just please remember that. That's some more supporting organizations that is not to be aware of. The Pro Foundation kind of keeps track of the Pro trademark and makes sure that there's a nice overview of important stuff happening when it comes to imaging and marketing and different things. YAPS Europe Foundation runs the European version of the YAPS runs the American one. Enlightened Pro organization is more like a business directed Pro organization, trying to make Pro more useful for businesses. Also worth knowing about. You don't need to know about it, it's just they exist. We're here to learn what exists. And within all this, okay, we're kind of jumping topics here now, sorry. You have to keep in mind that we're all doing this as a volunteer effort. That's one of the reasons you haven't heard about Pro actively in years. We're doing coding instead of just marketing. Meaning that if you want to join in and be part of the fun, try to at least follow a couple rules. If you go to rc.pro.org, you will learn about something called the reasonable person principle, which means please be a reasonable person. The short version of it is, we're all volunteers, please don't abuse. Do cool stuff instead. And it doesn't take much in order to get a nice and good reputation in the community. And why this is important, I'll come to in a moment. This is like just the start. How much time am I? I'm still doing well. Okay. Leo, when did you join the Pro community?
The first workshop was 2009.
So you've been in for 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Okay. So you're not a newbie anymore, but could you just quickly tell us how you are a newbie, or what was it like the first few years? While it's still fresh in memory. Shortly.
Oh, I hate questions like that.
That's why I asked you. And that's why I didn't prepare you. Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Did you mean it? Okay.
Theo was in the meetings last year.
Theo.
Yeah, Theo. Theo, he's the final. I can't start with Theo. But all right, if you don't have anything bad to say, at least.
No.
Oh, okay. We're at this. The current committee is at this statement that we don't have anything bad to say. That's thank you. Now, positive reputation. Leon, I'll say something about you now. He's been in here for 4 years, and he has already an awesome reputation. He's doing cool stuff, and he just started just a few years ago. Anybody can do that. Okay, he's talented, so if you want to do something, you have to be talented, but don't forget that. Don't be talented. Just do stuff. And if it's cool, here's an advice, a small one from me to you in order to actually get something real cool to happen for you. And that's based on a quote from an English journalist that in the 30s once said, literature is the art of writing something that will be read twice. Journalism is what will be grasped at once. If you manage to write code that people understand after one reading, but you want to read another time, you'll do awesome. Actually, you'll do awesome in any language community, but you'll also do awesome in the code community. All right. That's my little advice for today if you're a newbie. If you're not a newbie, you can accept or reject this as you want. All right. Part of being a pro community is you have to ask something, what's in it for me? Most of us are doing business actually, so it's not all volunteering. There's some people paying our salary. I could say that this is my story. I'm not very talented when it comes to Perl. I've dabbled, I've helped a lot of people, but I'm kind of more running community stuff, and I think that's fun. If you do something like that, you'll do fine in the Perl community. And in fact, you'll build your network, you'll get to know people, you get to find out who's good at things and good at what, and who you might want to talk about with something about in 5 or 6 or later. That's a nice way of saying they're not as good. And to this network you're building, if you're diving into the pro community, this is valuable. I got the raise just by saying, hey, I got a nice pro network. I know lots of people that can make stuff happen for us with our software when we have problems. This is useful because I know exactly who to go to with certain problems and can get stuff done much quicker than somebody who just bangs their head and at the problem all by themselves. That's valuable in such a way that you can actually get a raise, a better salary out of it. And I've done that. You can do it too, if you commit. And then there comes the next problem next to this, or opportunity. And if you're in the Perl community, sometimes you have to think about your colleagues. As late as yesterday, I got a mail from some recruiter in Ireland, I think in Dublin or something, asking if I knew anybody who was interested in a pro job in Dublin. The guy, he sent a mail to the guy in Oslo asking, hey, do you know any people? And I said, we're struggling already here. So, if you are working with Perl, or would like to, it's useful to know how to get more colleagues. Here are a few tips. Start getting visible. write about products. Like Booking.com is a huge Dutch company helping hotels find customers. They have a technical blog, blog.booking.com, where they push interesting problems and things that they work on. That's excellent marketing for a big company like that. And they're sucking in all kinds of companies from the whole world. There's a huge Brazilian contingent there, and their standard, their booth is like standard equipment for any conference. It's not a pro conference if Booking isn't there. It's weird. But they're doing something right there. But anybody can do that. Your company can do that. Write a blog with interesting product stuff. Draw your attention that you guys are awesome, you do cool stuff, and talented people, even if they're not pro people, maybe they're Python or PHP people and want to learn it from product, they will consider going to you if they see that you're doing cool stuff. So start doing that immediately. And be visible, like the Cluj guys. I don't know who put up this banner. They just showed up in the pro community like 2 years ago or something, 1 year. Just very recently. They're really aggressive in showing, hey, we've got people, we're doing stuff happening. We're making stuff happening. And showing off themselves. An example for lots of people to follow. It's very good stuff what they're doing. You can do it too. And the point here is, make sure the grass is greener on your side of the fence. That's the important detail. All right, things are going quickly. I think we're running very early here. How many minutes left?
14, 13.
Okay, 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, so here's a question I get sometimes. The people say, oh, there's so much pain with Perl. I used it 15 years ago. It's horrible. Things have changed, and you can learn about how it has improved immensely if you join the Perl community and listen and learn. But before, you don't have to, I'm not going to tell you just, if you're going to be better, you have to find these people. You get to learn something here too. So, and the conference, look at the schedule, there's some cool stuff going on. Here's a few modules which are popular these days. If you base your stack on these modules, you'll do fine. You'll do fine. There's lots of pain removed here. If you learn Git if you haven't already, Distilla helps you manage your pro distribution. It removes all kinds of stuff that you used to have to do in order to build the tarball suitable for CPAN. App CPAN minus is a way to just download and install stuff without pain. And you can even locally, you can even do that locally in your own home directory, and still things are working. You don't have to have root access in order to get test your code. If you want to try migrating from an older Perl to a new Perl, you can use ProBrew or PLEnv in order to switch between Perl versions as you go. It's pretty nice. Pinto is nice if you have your own little CPAN kind of module stack with all your own company modules and a bunch of CPAN modules, and you just need a full control over which modules you are using and work. This one is like having your own CPAN with all kinds of neat features at your company, where you can peg versions and say, for this package, this software stack here, this product, only use these versions, and they're all there. You can download it, you get the right one immediately, and you get control over what kind of software goes into your software, into your products. And Carton is a nice way of bundling all this together and then pushing it to your customer and saying, hey, it works. So this is just about as painless as you can get. And there's lots of cool ways, more ways of doing it than this. I know for a fact that there are lots of people here who know better ways even than that. We'll have time for that in a moment. Now, I can't leave here without saying something about Web6. It's been in development for many years now, 13, 14, Swedish. See Jonathan's talk at 5. I've been following this project for many years now, not the whole time. There's some really cool stuff going on there. So, some brilliantly awesome ideas, and it's so worth diving into that now. If you haven't considered it yet, now's the time to consider it. Don't wait, it's just stupid to wait. 5 o'clock in this room with Jonathan Worthington. 6 o'clock. I thought it was finished by 6.
No, but 7. So 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Oh, awesome. All right. 6 o'clock. 1,800 hours here. Thank you for correcting me. Take a quick jump back to our previous topic. Some slides were switched here. There's something called Task Kensho. It's a Perl module. You can find it on CPAN. It's an overview of stable and useful software. It's a Latin code organization who gathers this module, makes this module, this index. If you want to dive into stuff, dive into what's useful and what are people happy with on CPAN, this is an excellent start. All kinds of cool stuff that you can pick up there. But it's a moving target. Some modules go into disuse, aren't updated anymore, so they fall out of the list, and something else goes in. Like yesterday, a new version of this one came out, just 2 days ago. Oh, yesterday. And then we had a short discussion, should we put this REPL module, read-level print loop, or this other one? And they just want to remove the REPL listing, and I said, no, we need something about that, so let's keep the old one until we actually have a replacement. And there are replacements, we just have to figure out which ones are good. And the discussion about which one is good is happening on the EPO channel on Freenode. So if you have opinions, go there, join the discussion. Just tell them what you're using, they're happy for feedback. Other than that, if you have any questions, throw them at the room or myself. No questions. Awesome. I'd like to see you almost have a question. Okay. All right. We're a couple minutes early.
I have a question.
Okay.
You talked about hackathon, so
Yeah.
I've been to Perl workshops and organized like the different, and I've been to a hackathon. So I wonder, do you have to be in the project and you will be a newbie because maybe they're right at the core of Perl, core of Perl, whatever.
Okay. The question is
How do you get inside and what is expected from you? So,
Okay.
Because you don't want to be a tourist there, that's why.
the question is how hackathons. What are the requirements? What do you need to know? Do you need to be part of the community? There are all kinds of different hackathons. You have we are the core group trying to get shit done type of hackathons, which have a high level of requirements. You might say, okay, like in May, the end of May, in Oslo, there will be a Modulicious conference at 24th, I think, or 5th of May. And on that Sunday, there will be a hackathon in Oslo for the core members of the Modulicious project. And basically, they're planning on just getting stuff done. And they have hard problems, they need a room where they gather and talk about it and solve things. Usually, at least when I'm involved, I say to the guests, please let the newbies in so that they can listen in. But not all hackathons are welcome to newbies because they need to get stuff done. It's hard problems to be solved. So you have to actually look at the hackathon whether or not the organizers, what the web page says, is everyone welcome. Usually it's a good thing, but I've seen hackathons basically opening the doors. Anybody can come. This is what we're going to do. We're having a coding competition, but best one gets a prize. Or organizers setting up the hackathon in such a way that there are lots of low-hanging fruits that anybody can pick up and do something. Documentation or writing tests or stuff like that. And I think the clue here is look at the hackathon, see what the web page says, contact the people. It's an awesome thing to be part of and be there. Even if you're not 100% useful, you learn a lot of stuff. And maybe the next time or the time after that you'll be full in there. But the learning curve is awesome. It's still valuable, and I would hope that most hackathon organizers appreciate that and open up. But that's not always the case. I would say perhaps the exception is that they're closed, but usually they're open. But go ahead, do it, and if you're unsure, ask. Any other questions? Yeah?
For you, people I live in Brussels, and another people live in Brussels.
Yes, there's a Brussels Pearlmongers and a Flandern Pearlmongers, and both meet here in Brussels. You can talk with Claudio here, who's organizing this room, and he can help you find out when next time we might meet.
Or Brussels. Yeah.
Talk with him.
We have people that are in both the founders and the Brussels PM, so they share in both communities.
Okay.
There are some people only founders and some only Brussels, but we have some in both, so you can pick and choose to do both.
Okay. Yeah. So there's the language. I've noticed that the one time I sent a mail to the Brussels PM mail list, I got no reply.
They don't like you.
Yeah, I should have asked in French. I don't know. Maybe I was too strange. I know. Was that okay? Reply? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
How would you, let's say that there's not a PM Pearlmonger group in the city that you're living currently?
How would I do?
Yeah, what would you do?
Go to pm.org and look at the map there. You can click into the region where you are, and from that little red pointer.
There's no one in Ireland. There's no one in Ireland. There's no
Netherlands. Ireland.
Yep.
There is Ireland. I just checked. There is some. There's registered at Dublin Pearlmongers, but it's been inactive for a while.
It was registered like 7 years ago.
Yes.
That message like 9 years ago.
So that's a signal, but that's a signal that there has been people around who wanted to make stuff happen. Maybe they need a nudge saying, hey, anybody want to go out for a beer? And then send a message, ask a question.
Are you showing out for a beer? Shocking.
Yes, I know. So remember, it's all volunteer-based, meaning you should expect that somebody suddenly grows up and gets a girlfriend or boyfriend and kids and whatnot, family life and car and a home, and suddenly all their free time gets eaten by those things, and somebody else has to pick up the slack and try to make stuff happen. And if you want to make stuff happen, just do it. Because nobody is going to blame you to make people want to go out for a beer and talk about her. People will usually join you, actually. Just do it. Final question?
What is the advantage for me to learn Perl? Because I could learn any other language too.
Horrible question. No, okay. What's the point in learning programming?
It's fun.
Than any other language. You're right.
I don't want a language war in this room here, unless it's about program. Here's my take on it, and it's rather subjective. And if you ask anybody else, you will get the subjective answer. And that has an important root cause, and it's that there is more than one way to do it. The motto of the Pro community. It basically is about freedom. They want the Pro community and the Pro interpreter and the language is about freedom of choice, making sure that you can do whatever you need to do without too much things going anywhere and too much strictures. Lots of other languages they use strictures. They use ways of formatting or rails, you might say, in order to get people going, which is fine. It's an awesome way of lessening the learning curve. But as you grow more familiar, you sometimes I at least feel that I appreciate the freedom of choosing and picking the way to express my code in such a way that other people can understand it. And Pro makes that easy. It also makes it easy to write horrible code. And it's completely true. I know you may not have heard about this in fact, but you can write horrible code in Perl. Really? But yes. I don't know. That is it's completely new to me. But the important thing here is it's your code, and if you write something in such a way that people want to read it, and people want to understand it after one reading, you'll be fine, and you'll actually make it more understandable for yourself. So Perl helps you express whatever you're doing, like you would be able to, for example, be able to express yourself in any spoken language. Spoken languages are very malleable and changeable, and you can use them for all kinds of stuff. So, same way with Perl. You can curse in English as well as you can curse in Perl. And you can write beautiful stuff. So, this is the end of the talk. If you want to follow me, I'm on that Twitter handle. All the ones to that, thank you very much.
Here, it's fine. This is fine.
For here, so there is
yeah, if you have a cable or if you have a mic.
I'm gonna search. I think we have one more FOSDEM.
Sorry, I don't have one with me at the moment.
Okay,
No, you can't.
cross
It will save you a little.
search for another. But I think it doesn't work because the cab. Maybe try the camera.
We don't have a way to put it right now.
Our next, we got stop again. Our next speaker is JJ Moreno. It's a rather different topic he's talking about. He's talking about how to write a novel in Perl. Thank you.
Or several.
Okay,
first thing, I have to give you some advice. Please don't do a Lawrence of Arabia. You know what Lawrence of Arabia did? Anybody knows it? He wrote his whole book and he left it on the train. I was right there. This morning, when I was arriving here on the bus, I went to my bag and my laptop was in there. Fortunately, it was back in the hotel room, so I just went back and came here. So please don't leave things somewhere, okay? So, something about the speaker. This is me. And that's all I'm going to say about me. You know, I hate it when people put a slide saying this and that, I won the X Factor, whatever. I hate it. So, just what I'm going to do is to give you amuse, to give you entertain, to give you some advice for a while, and I think that's all you need to know. So first thing, do you want to be a writer? Not to write? Who wants to be a writer? Want to be a writer? Okay, I'm going to give you a very useful tool for writing. This is not any pencil, it's an IKEA pencil. It's made by Swedish craftsmen, painfully. It so happens that many people want to be a writer. In fact, you probably write already. So there is literature everywhere. You can find literature in Twitter, you can find literature in blogs, also in reviews, in TripAdvisor reviews, for instance. Anywhere, all over the place. People write all the time. Only they don't write in long form. They don't write novels, they don't write big non-fiction books, whatever. I'm going to concentrate mainly on the artistic part. I mean, on the part where you actually write a novel. And I'm going to talk about that. But why do you write? Why do people write? Usually people write because they want to be loved. Right? Bryce Chiniquet is a Peruvian writer. Actually, this guy wanted to be loved too much. So he copied newspaper articles. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to copy your way to fame and fortune and everything. You have to use only three things. I'll come to that later. One thing is writing, other thing is publishing, other different thing is finishing. Starting something from the very beginning, coming to the end, and doing something that's more or less good enough, okay? Something that works. It's a different kettle of fish that you have to do, right? actually write. I know many people who write, many people who start writing, many people who say, I have a novel in my head. People say that people write not because they want it, but because they need it. They have a novel in their head. And they want to see that novel. And to see that novel, to see those characters, they have to make it. Joss Whedon says this: write it, shoot it, publish it, crochet it, saute it, whatever. Make. So you have to make. And Per is going to have to do that. Joss Whedon made lots of things, good things, Star Trek, and some other things. So what do you need to start making, right? You need something like this, a cinta, which is a dream that's followed by writers all over the world. That's a single thing you need to be a writer. This is the most important thing you need to be a writer. Let me see if you find it. All these personal writers, what do they have in common? What?
Volunteer.
Correct. White hair. You got another? But this time I'm not going to give you a ball pen. I'm going to give you the best from Cancun. It's a notebook I came from a hotel in Cancun. So here you have it. Wow. And then you have both things you need to be a writer. You have the notebook and you have the pencil. And that's it. So exactly, you need great hair, or white hair, or fabulous hair. Actually, do you know the first one I show here? Maybe I'll show it back. Who's this guy?
James Campbell.
Charles Stroh. So he's a hairmonger, he's a Sipan author, and he's also a writer, very good writer. So I come to him later on. Anyways, not everybody can have great hair, right? For instance, I can't. I have a soul patch. I grew it only for this talk. But if you don't have great hair, what do you need to be a writer? You need laziness, impatience, and of course, hubris. Hubris is something that every writer has. He wants to create a world. He wants to do something that's special. He wants to populate that world with little characters that do whatever you want sometimes. So Per is then an excellent tool for being a writer. First, if you want to write something and you want to do it now. So I'm going to talk about my latest book, right? Because the scariest moment is always just before you start. You know, people are afraid of the blank page. When they see a blank page, they put it here and say, ah, blank page. So you have to be very patient to start. You need something to make you start, and then, I mean, everything goes downhill from there. So I'm going to talk about it in my latest book, right? Every writer, when he talks about anything, he always talks about his books. So I'm going to talk about my book. It's a very interesting book. This is what people say about my book. It reflects the chaos about life. You never know what's going to come next. The authors go full circle with this. This is my book. I wrote it with a few lines of code. It's this book, Book of P. It's P. It's published in Amazon. You can buy it in Amazon. Nobody has ever done it, and I don't expect anybody to do it, but it's there. It's basically a book with the digits of P. So it says, here comes a 3, then a 1, then a 4, then a 2, then 3, then another 4. And I wrote it like this. That's using Per. And this is the first piece of code you're going to do. It's going to be interesting because it shows you how Per can be used for anything at all. And also how some patterns in Per, like for instance, a regular expression, are very useful to do a huge variety of things. Basically, what it does is it takes P, a file with the 9,999 first digits of P, picks them up, and then what it says is it finds patterns like 2 3s, 3 2s, whatever, and it substitutes those patterns by the name of the digits plus some random phrase, like here comes 4 3s, and then wait for it, 3 4s, and then whatever, just a comma, whatever. It's random. Every time you run this script, you get a new book, right? I could publish them all. Nobody would buy them, and I know positively that nobody ever is going to read them. Maybe somebody will, but nobody ever is going to read them. But here you have it. It's a little bit longer, actually. It's published in GitHub. Everything. It's very interesting because I was inspired by some other. I mean, the same thing that was done before in Spanish. I was also a parascript. I adapted it a little bit and made it a little bit shorter, so I carried down to basically those lines. It was published before, and this guy published 10,000 digits of P in Spanish, and he sold 2 books, which is much more than many poets can say. So here's a book, you can buy it, of course it's free. And there's a funny thing about this. You know, I had some interesting interchange with Amazon when I wanted to publish it. First thing is, I said there was an author, right? So I just wanted to be the editor, and then they told me, you don't have an author in your book. I said, no, there's an author in P. Who made P? Nobody made P. So, okay, I'll go with that, and I put my name and the name of my colleague, Angel, as an author. But then it came back. I wanted to put it into the public domain, because, I mean, it's P. Who can it not be in the public domain? And then they told me, okay, if you want it to be in the public domain, you must tell me the name of the authors and when they died. So, the author of P, for some religions is to be a god, for some others the god of mathematics, for some other religion is just the devil. And then, did it die? I mean, okay, it's a god, so it never dies, or it's not alive, so what can I say? I mean, they were very smart with it, and they accepted it, and they eventually allowed me to publish it, and actually you can see it in all the Amazon books. And the code is right here. I mean, it's very easy, it's just a file with lots of numbers, but I mean, you can do any variation of this. You can do the book of E, you can do the book, if you're physically oriented, the Planck's constant, you can do anything. I mean, you have a whole series. But this is not a book. I mean, it doesn't have a plot, doesn't have anything like that. There's another way of writing a book. There's another way of impatiently of making your laziness work for you and write a book for you. Instead of writing a book, generate it. There is a whole month, the month of November, it's called the National Novel Generating Month. So people start generating novels all the time. How do you do it? I can see this. So I take out the Cthulhu. Okay, now it's better. What is it? Very interesting. This was published by Charles Strauss, the guy I told before. He's a pair, he of pair, he writes in pair, and he published it last December. The basic idea is this. You have a huge corpus of things that are in the public domain, and what you do is you measure the number of times a word appears behind one word or 2 words or 3 words. Okay, that's called a Markov chain, right? Algorithm Markov chain, which is an excellent module which is in Cpan, does that for you. So instead of working with a single novel or with a single corpus of writing, like let's say Sturm or the works by Lovecraft, he mixed 2 different things: the Bible and all the works by Lovecraft. And he came with Love Bible. It's not the Bible of love; it's the Bible of Lovecraft. And it was all like this. It's very easy. You first analyze the stuff, okay? So what you do is you have the 2 files, 2 text files with lots of things. And what you do is you generate some random words and let the algorithm chain some other words. So you pick the first word, then the algorithm picks the one word that's most frequent, or maybe not so frequent, after that, and then so on and so forth, and you create a whole chain. Okay? And you write a book. Right? It's a long Bible, a whole book. It's kind of, it's been done, I mean, many different ways. It's just a matter of choosing 2 funny things or 2 completely different things to mix. It was created initially with a book on programming, and it was mixed with the Cthulhu knives, and then it was done with this, with the Bible, but you can do it pretty much with anything. But you can also do this. Read the classics, and then rewrite them. This is taken from a book called Android Karenina. This is the Karenina, this android. Was a Russian woman who was in love with a young android. Or maybe android of the time. I haven't read it, so I mean, there is android somewhere. But there is a whole bunch of books. For instance, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. And somewhere like that. It's nice to see that because when you have a word that's in the public domain, like Anna Karenina, because it was within the last century, or you have Pride and Prejudice, all those things are in the public domain. But I'll come to that later because there's an interesting lesson there. You can do anything you want to with them. So you can mix and match them. You can republish. You can do a theater, or you can rewrite them. So read the classics and rewrite them, of course, using PER. Okay. And you will say, rewriting the classics, that's something that's not done. That's not good. It's not good authorship. What do you think about this? Do you think it's related to some classic? It's Hamlet. Star Wars is Hamlet. It's based on the Shakespeare story. I mean, not the story about to be or not to be, or it could be there, but it so happens that in Hamlet, there is one guy that kills his brother. That father killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then, they weren't brothers, but they were Jedi brothers. So, I mean, it's not exactly the same. You're rewriting it, so it's not exactly the same. And then, as a ghost comes to his son and tells him Obi-Wan Kenobi came to Luke Skywalker and told him that Darth Vader had killed him, and then Luke Skywalker kills Anakin Skywalker. That's Hamlet. So it's been done all the time, and Hamlet has been done endless times. Many classics you see them made into a movie, but sometimes are The Lion King, for instance. The Lion King is also the story of Hamlet. So it's done all the time. Already we can do it better with PER. Because, of course, there's a very thin line between Pierre Menard, author of the Quixote. I don't know if you know this story. This is a short story, one of the first stories that was published by Borges. And it's about a guy who wrote the Quixote. Pierre Menard picked up the Quixote and wrote word by word the Quixote. And then people started to review the book and say, it's an excellent revision of the classic. It's not a revision, it was exactly the same thing, word by word, right? By the way, there's another story related to that, because somebody wrote the works of Borges, and he was sued. He had to publish them, but whatever. And there's another story about the author of the first Chinese translation. What he did was, there was some guy who knew English, and started to read the English translation of the Quixote to another guy who didn't know English. And then this other guy started to write down whatever he interpreted from the English translation. Okay? So one guy reading to another guy in Chinese, from the English translation. And this other guy in Chinese putting it into literature Chinese, which is apparently different from spoken Chinese. I mean, there's of course, he came up with something that was completely different from Quixote. But a funny thing anyway. So there's a thin line you have to walk, but I walked that line. So what can you do? I actually did this during this Christmas. It was my next to last book. I wrote Salacain the Space Adventurer. It was based on a classic Spanish book called Salacain el Aventurero. So I put it into the next century and a helmet and some shiny stuff or the thing. So what can you do? First, you obtain a plain text from Gutenberg.org. Then you start geographical and character names, because it's important. Only thing you have to change is the names. You can't call a space adventurer Pepe or Juan or Joe or whatever, right? You can call him Joe, but not Juan. Then you measure word frequencies, because word frequencies give you an idea of what the story is about. If it's talking constantly about horses, or it's talking about cars, whatever, you have to target those words for changing the story completely, right? So word frequency, besides, so happens that in every literary work, there's a power law in the apparition of word on word frequency. It's called the sixth law, and it's also a power law in how many times the characters show up, right? Then when you do this, you generate the regular expression for mapping frequent names and generating new ones. You have to do that Why? Because sometimes in a single novel you can have 100, even thousands of different names, geographical names, surnames, names of streets, whatever. So you have to do that. But you always have to target the most frequent ones, because those are the ones that are going to be seen. I mean, if Madrid shows up in a space adventure book, it doesn't matter too much. But I mean, if it shows up once, but if it shows up over and over again, you will be completely out of character and it will throw you off. And then what you do is you replace most frequent words or words group. You do it like this, right? The first thing you have to do is you sort all the word frequencies, right? And then you read the original file, which, as I said, you get it from Gutenberg or Tor. And then what you do is you first work with these are, I mean, it's basically a substitution. And what you do is you do a lower case, because sometimes the words appear at the beginning of a phrase or appear somewhere. So you do a lower case first, you do a comparison, and then what you do is you substitute it. And then eventually, this will be for names, for the words will be more or less the same. You capitalize it again, and you put it back. The code is here, right? It's everything open source, of course. And there are several funny stories also related to this. You know, in Spain, April Fool's is December 28th. So I wanted to do this as December 28th. I wanted to say I'm writing a new book and I'm publishing a new book. I actually did it in the end, but it wasn't so good for several reasons. First one is don't mess with copyright law. What happens with public domain? Public domain is not the same everywhere, right? So public domain exists in its form basically in the USA, but it doesn't exist mainly in the continental law. So you can say something in the public domain. It so happens that this story, which was written at the beginning of the last century, was publicly available in Spanish, but it's not free. It's not in the public domain. So you can't reproduce it. So eventually what happened? It was published only in Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, and some other places that are not, I mean, not in Spanish. Right? You can't do that in Spanish. That's the lesson I learned. But the second thing, of course, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it again. I just published it for that day and I pulled it off the next day, so I took it off. I didn't care about that. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to really write the book, but really rewriting it as I did with Android Karenina, like picking up the book, picking up that as a first step, and then doing a bit of revision and things like that, right? But that's a second lesson, that's an interesting lesson. That's something that I had learned before. But you should open source your novel. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that you should write a free novel. Some people do, and they do perfectly. Charles Stross writes Creative Commons novels for a doctoral, that's correct. But they don't open source it. What do I mean by open source? Release early, release often. That means that as soon as you write the first line, it should be in there. It should be out there for everybody to see, right? It should be also written in a way that's really a source, like Markdown. Do you know Markdown? Markdown is a very simple markup language. I mean, you can write very simply to do italics and things like that. You can't do complicated things, but very simple things, you can do it very easily. And it's basically text. So, could be LaTeX, but LaTeX is a little bit more complicated. Markdown, anybody can understand Markdown. I mean, a header is something you write and then equal signs below it. A second level header is some words and then dashes below it and so on. Very easy. So open source your novel, do it from the very beginning and do it now. That's what I did. Actually, I did it for a novel I wrote last summer, and I'm doing it now for a novel I'm writing now, which you can watch. The novel I wrote last summer, and this is the one I'm going to talk about more or less from now on, was in English, so you can basically read it. The one I'm writing now is in Spanish, so you can Google translate it and have a lot of fun. So, GitHub, great tool for writers. Do you know GitHub? Everybody knows GitHub? It's a great place to be. I mean, anybody in the open source community uses it. Mostly nobody who writes, or maybe 2 or 3 people, use it in the let's say, humanities. Not only literature, but anything else. Law or whatever. I think that GitHub is a great tool for writers. In fact, I wrote an article, I published it in Medium. You can check it out there. And I really think it's very, very good to write in GitHub for many reasons. First reason, backup. You can do a Lawrence of Arabia because every time you write, you push, and it's in repository. And when I say GitHub, and use it in the open, not with closed repo, with the open repo, all the time. But then, so happens that it's very easy to use Perl with GitHub to help you publish things all the time. For instance, this thing. Git hooks. You know what Git hooks are? It's something that happens as soon as you do something. You commit, and then something happens, right? It's like a trigger that's triggered whenever you do an action. This is actually a post-commit hook. And it's a post-commit hook for something that's interesting, which is continuous publishing. So GitHub also has some excellent tool, which is called GitHub Pages. But GitHub Pages are basically a different branch of your master project, and they are not updated automatically. So if you want to publish immediately in GitHub Pages, whatever you do, when you do a commit, you have to do something like this, right? A GitHub hook. It's something, I mean, it's very easy to use. You just put it into a directory that's called .git/hooks. You put it in Perl, you do a symbolic link. I mean, it's no big deal. This is published in a GIST, and it's also in the project, in another project. You can do it very easily. What does it do? Basically what it does is it looks at the commit and says, what have you changed? And then picks that file from the master branch, put it into the GH Pages branch, add something on top, some formatting instructions, because it's using something called Jekyll. Never mind, it does some stuff on it, right? And then do another commit and put it on the tree, on the GitHub tree. So as soon as you do some patch, you have it published on GitHub Pages, right? As soon as you write something. And what I'm using here is something that's a Git module that comes with Git. There's a git.pm module that's not in cpan, but it comes with Git. Only you have to look it up, you have to look for it. And it's not automatic to use it, it's not as easy as cpan Git, or it wasn't last summer, maybe it is now. But the thing is that, I mean, if you do some magic, it's just a matter of picking git.pm from the Git distribution directories and put it into the cpan directories, you can use it and you can do it, right? So it's, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's something you can do, it's very easy to do, and it really helps you, because as soon as you do something, as soon as you write something, it's published. Remember, it's an open source novel. It's, I mean, it's open source. The whole project is open source. The text is Creative Commons, so it's open source. It's there. As soon as I write something, it's there. Here's a novel. I finished it. I published it. Don't ask if I sold it. It's not for selling. You know. Anyways, it's free, and you can see it in many different ways. So you don't really need to buy it unless you really want to. But it's there. This is the GitHub page. Everything is in GitHub, so that you can fork it. You can fork my novel. You don't like it? Let's fork it. Right? You can create different characters. You can write a different thing. You can write a play. You can write a screenplay, whatever. Okay? And it's there. But the thing is, you're publishing everything as soon as you do it. Words and all. This guy, who knows this guy? Not you. Well, maybe you. I have another very nice black pencil, because writers were black, you see. So, who's this guy?
Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman.
Sandman.
So Sandman, excellent writer. He very recently published The Ocean at the End of the Lane. Excellent book. Anything he writes. He's also got a book with Terry Pratchett, which is called Good Omens, which is hilarious. Very good writer. But he says, you don't have to set everything to destruction just to see if you made it right. Oh, but you do. Because cpan will not let you stop your node if you don't test it. So, what do you need? I mean, this is Okay. Well, it's like software development. I said it and I said it again. So everything is continuous integration. So this novel had from the very beginning, and the other novel I'm writing now, continuous integration. Right? So, do you know about continuous integration? Everybody knows how it works? Do I tell a little bit how it works, continuous integration? The basic idea is that you test your code before incorporating it into some master branch or whatever. Right? So, continuous integration, what does it do? When you do a patch, it's also a hook. So when you do a patch, it checks out your code, runs some tests, and then says it failed. Well, not really runs some tests. You can do some transformations, some stuff like compiling, things like that. And then it says it failed, and it fails here or there or whatever, or it's okay. Okay, it's fixed. So what I did is I put continuous integration for my novel. And once again, I did it with Perl. So what I did is to create a model, a SIPA module that integrated the novel and run some tests on it. What kind of test? Basically, typos, because there are two types of people in this world. Those who can edit and those who can't. So I didn't want to be the kind of people that did it. So I edited. Of course, you can run it. I was writing with Emacs, of course. You can spell check. But you have this thing, do it for you, and I did it with this program. So what I did is I put this as a test in a module which included the novel. All the code is there, right? Basically what it does is it takes the text of the novel, which is right here, okay? It splits the text into different words, and then it spell checks the word. It's okay if the word is okay, right? So at the end, every time I do a push, I get a report from Travis CI, something like this, saying, first, here, number of tests is 30,000. This is also the number of words you've written, which is very interesting because you know your progress. I mean, if you listen to writers on Twitter, they say all the time, I wrote 300 words today, I wrote 100 words. You can know exactly how many words you wrote today because you have it here. Number of tests is number of words, right? So if in the previous test you have, let's say, 20,000 words, in this test you have 30,000 words, you have 5,000 words more. You did quite a lot today. So you also know when you hit the mark of doing a novella, novelette, whatever. 30,000 is novelette, more or less. 35,000 would be something like a novel, short novel. 45,000 is more or less a novel. From 45,000 on, you have a big novel like Stephen King or Stieglass or whatever. But then there are more things. Fog, Kincaid, and Flash. These are text quality measures. They are basically related to the number of different words you use and how the number of words increase when you increase the text. So if they have a low level, that means that you have a very poor vocabulary. You have high level, you have a good vocabulary. You can have there is such a thing as having too high a level because nobody will understand it, like Jeff Jones, for instance. So you must keep this between some level. And if there is a typo and this level goes too high or too low, continuous integration fails, I have to go back to work. And I did it, actually. I mean, it was like an incentive. I mean, it was something that was something to my laziness. You written this, you fail, then you write, then you fix it, and then once you fix it, you write maybe 100 words more, or maybe just 3 words more. But you keep writing, and that's interesting, and that's cool. Here's all the reports you see, there are something like 300 or I don't remember how many, but around 200. You can see it right there. You want to do something? No? Any questions so far?
Yeah, actually, for the previous book that you said,
Okay.
I don't want to say how many people bought it, but how many hits did you have on the people downloading it?
10.
Okay.
I mean, I did it very fast, and I also used a template, and I didn't take out all the stuff that was in the template before the book. So when people downloaded it and said, there's something here. Lauren Ibsen, what's this? JJ is a very good writer, but he doesn't know Latin. Actually, I didn't know Latin. But anyways, I mean, they saw it as this is maybe December 28th. What was it? April Fool's. I mean, December Fool's. So, no, a joke. It's like that. But I really want to write it. So I have all the text there and I want to rewrite it. So, about this thing, the continuous integration, I mean, as I say, if it sucks or not. It's very interesting because you know the quality and you know whether what you have written a very particular day makes those indices go up or down. And that's interesting. You're assessing your book by yourself. You know what they say about editors? They're like a father figure for a writer. So I have as a father continuous integration. This is the book, right? You can buy it. Some people have done it, not very many. I think a dozen or so. But this is something that plays in your hobbies. Because when you publish something on Amazon, it publishes everywhere. And you become a hotel. Not a writer. Hotel. So it's right there. I mean, it's available in all the Amazon. It's a real book. It's a real story. It's a steampunk story. It's about, well, this is hand-waving. It's a hand-waving. Just imagine that the Republic of Florida is independent and it's a socialist republic. And then there's a circus in that socialist republic and there's a robot in that circus. And then the Americans send somebody to retrieve that. Right? And it's about that. It's a story. It was originally called Hobo because it's a hobo story. It's some hobos gathering around the fire and talking about what they did, which might be true or not. So they talk and talk and talk and they tell the story of this person going to get it. There are murderous clowns. There are racist people. There are not so racist people. There is a lot of. I mean, it's a short story. You can buy it. You can buy it, but you can also have it here. Just go to CPAN, do CPAN text hover, and you have it right there in your computer. Then you do Perl doc text hover manual, and here's the novel. Right there in your computer. Right? Why could I do this? Because it was written in Markdown. There is something which is called basically Markdown to top, and then you have it. Okay, it's very easy to do. So, funny thing about doing things in the open source way is that you can convert them any way you want. Anywhere you want. You can do it continuously, you can do it all the time. So Paul is very similar to Markdown. It's also a little bit not complicated, so I didn't use it originally for Paul. Charles Stross wrote a novel using Paul instead of using Vim. It's not so. There's more. I wrote another novel 4 or 5 years ago, and I wrote a module that's called net lujo y glamour, which is basically a URL shortener. And if you install it and you look at it in the test directory, the whole PDF of the novel is there. Yes, you can do it now if you want. Another thing is that Kindle, when you publish in Amazon, you publish into something called Kindle Direct Publishing, and then it sends you reports of what you sold, what people don't want for free, whatever. It's an excellent report. So what I did was this module, which I didn't release in CPAN because it changes all the time, and they change the format of this section all the time. It's very useful for me because all my novels are open source. They are out there for everybody to see. So I want to be also transparent with what I sell, what I give for free, and so on and so forth. So everything is all my sales are posted, and all my sales reports I did with this. And then once it's in Markdown, you can do anything you want. You can put it in a path like OpenShift, or in this case I did it with JavaScript. I can do Perl Dancer, but I will do it later on. So, can Perl write your novel? No. Well, maybe yes. But you can maximize your hubris by doing it yourself. Help by Perl, of course. And that's it. Thank you very much. Do you have questions? I have pencils. Shoot. Yeah?
The Manuel de Marketing is that a good book? Would you recommend that?
It what?
Is it a good book? Would you recommend that?
I mean, I wrote it. It's not so bad. It's the first thing I wrote in English. So it's entertaining, it's funny, it's poignant, it's there, it's short. So whatever you do, you won't do it for long. Another question? Okay, thank you very much.
If you like the same writers, come to Amsterdam. Let me know. Come to our hackerspace.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It is really interesting.
Yo un segundo. No tengo mucho tiempo porque no puedo detenerme.